Beatboxing and breathing. How do you do it? Let's talk about it. To be honest, breathing is probably the most challenging technique of beatboxing, especially when you're first starting out. But there are a variety of ways that you can breathe during a beatboxing pattern in ways that don't impact the beatboxing pattern. My favorite way of breathing during a beatboxing pattern is through the inward K. I've talked about this a few times, but for example, if the roof of your mouth is here, and the front of your tongue, back of your tongue is like this, the back of your tongue will kind of snap down, and that's what's creating the noise. This sound will take a little bit more practice, but once you get it, you'll be like, ah, okay, yeah. Another way is breathing after a hi-hat. A hi-hat is this sound. So if you're going to do an outward snare sound, or those are all outward air. So you're going to breathe after a hi-hat. You can sneak in a breath like that if you can hear it. And you don't have to do it after each one, but when you need a breath, you know you can sneak one in after a hi-hat. I also sometimes take a breath after a PF snare. This is the PF snare. This was one of my first beatboxing patterns, and it went like this. Can you hear the breath? I'll slow it down. Normally, I wouldn't advise you to breathe after a snare, but in this case, it doesn't interrupt any of the other sounds. It kind of still flows just as fine. And lastly, let's talk about when you have too much air in your lungs, because that happens to me all the time, especially when I'm doing an inward K. I have a lot of air in my lungs and I want to get it out. Well, one way that I do this is through a filter sweep. Filter sweeps are really cool filler sound effects. You can do an inward one or an outward one. And it goes right back into the beat. If you don't want to do a full filter sweep, I like to sometimes use a cymbal crash just to let some air out. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial.